Welcome back to Unapologetically Crunchy. I'm Marguerite.
I'm Carl.
And today we are talking all about bone broth. Today, we're joined by a true craftsman of flavor, nutrition, and tradition, Thomas Odermatt. Known for his dedication to simple ingredients and time-honored cooking techniques, Thomas has built a reputation for transforming humble bones into some of the most nourishing bone broth on the market.
Yeah, in this episode, we're going to dive into the story behind Butcher's Bone Broth, Thomas's passion for clean ingredients, his philosophy on nourishment, and how he's bringing old world cooking into modern kitchens. And we're also going to give some tips and tricks on how to incorporate bone broth into your meals and into your kids' meals too, which is really important. So whether you're a foodie, a health conscious parent, or someone who simply loves a good origin story, and this is a good one, you're going to love this conversation. So before we get started with our conversation with Thomas, Marguerite, why bone broth?
Oh, well, it's nutrient dense. It's loaded with collagen. It contains amino acids, which are essential for our gut health and digestion. And it's easy to make. It's really easy to incorporate it in our lives too. Some of the ways to do that is you can just drink like a cup of warm bone broth. You can flavor it any type of way that you want. I like mine with lemon. And you can also cook rice with it. You can cook pasta with it. You can even put it in mashed potatoes and mac and cheese. And I have a killer recipe for a bone broth hot chocolate where you cannot even taste the bone broth in it. And I will post that on our Instagram too at Crunchy Pod if you guys are interested.
Yeah, that's great. You guys should check it out because it sounds like it wouldn't be good, but it's actually not bad. And it's the nutrients that it provides to these meals and the way you can kind of sneak it in there. It's worth it. It tastes good. And that kind of brings me to the next question I have, because I think about bone broth, think about stock. So what's the difference between stock and bone broth?
That's a really, really great question. So some of the differences are stock is usually simmered for probably about 2 to 4 hours, whereas bone broth is 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, like whatever your preference is. So there's much more time and it's soaking up just more and more of those nutrients from the bones the longer it's in. Also the purpose, stock is usually, they're just a flavor things. Bone broth is made for nutrition, healing, sipping. So that's different. And then also stock has some gelatin, but bone broth is a superstar here. I mean, there's so much gelatin in bone broth. So you're going to get way more nutrients out of a bone broth.
And we'll hear from Thomas about it too, about the jiggle rating that he has for all of his bone broth, right?
Yeah, yes. He
Pretty
talks a lot
cool.
about collagen too, which is great. And then the ingredients, another thing that we talk about a lot in this episode are the ingredients. Usually stocks have meat scraps in them along with bones. Bone broth is usually just bones, and sometimes people like to cook vegetables in there too. It just depends on whatever your preference is. Because of the cooking time with bone broth, the flavor in the bone broth is usually better than the broth. And then sippability, it's like so easy and cute to just like grab a cup of bone broth and sip it. Whereas who wants to sip on a cup of stock? That does not sound cute
Yeah.
or
No, it
cozy.
sounds gross actually. But it's amazing. I did not fully understand like the huge nutritional and health benefits of bone broth, right? And so it was surprising to me as you've been teaching me over the years, but then listening to Thomas talk a little bit more about it, like just so exciting, especially as we focus now on gut health and trying to like create, that overall wellness within our bodies. Bone broth is a really key aspect of doing so. Can you tell me maybe just a few of the health benefits of bone broth, and then we can get into the conversation with Thomas?
Of course, there's so many health benefits, and I can actually speak to this myself because I've been drinking bone broth almost every day for the last 3 or 4 years, and it has helped me repair my gut. So that is a huge benefit right there, is it supports gut health. It's because it's so rich in gelatin and the amino acids that we mentioned earlier, specifically glutamine, glycine, and proline. I think that I pronounced those right.
Sounds right.
It also helps with joint health. It's just lubricating for the joints. It strengthens the immune system. It enhances hair, nails, and skin. So we all want that elasticity. It promotes better sleep and relaxation because of the amino acid glycine. It's really calming for the nervous system. It also helps regulate digestion and metabolism, and it aids in muscle recovery and repair. And it's just all around overall goodness for us. So it's definitely something to think about incorporating into your life if you don't already.
Sounds like it's great for anyone, whether you're highly active or more sedentary or anything. Like it's just good for you all around.
Totally is. I definitely always want to have it in my life. And I'm always going to be sneaking into the kids' food and your food too.
Hey, bring it on. Haven't minded so far, and I won't mind it going forward.
All right.
Well, that's great. So I'm really excited that we talked to Thomas today, and we'll get right into the episode.
Enjoy, guys.
Thanks for listening.
Well, thank
However,
you so much for
Mhm.
coming on our show today.
You're welcome. Thank you
We're,
both.
we're
Yeah, we're
excited to have you.
thrilled to have you on.
So, you have a very interesting story. You're a third generation Swiss butcher and you have a master's degree in organic farming. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what it was like growing up in a traditional Swiss butchery family?
Yeah, boy, oh boy. When people ask me, well, are you really a farmer? Um, I say, yep. And
Yeah.
I can always prove it. My hands are really like farmer's paws. Um, so yeah, I worked all my life in with the hands and I love it. I like it. Um, I'm a hands-on kind of business person, so to speak. So uh, not really in the office that often. It's not my favorite thing to do, but it has to be in the size of my company. But going back, yeah, I grew up in Switzerland. To tell you a little bit more about the perspectives of geographical perspective. So about an hour and 15, an hour and a half to Milano, Italy,
Okay, yeah.
and about an hour and 15 to Zurich. Um,
You've
so
been
right
there.
in the middle. Basically, I'm a citizen of a little town it's called Dallenwil. That's on the almost close to the San Gottardo area, but on the German side. So before you go through the big long tunnel down to Italy, to Ticino, the Swiss Italian part, and then into Italy. Uh, Grew up very simple. uh, give you a little stats. I have 4 brothers and 4 sisters, so we are
Wow.
a big family, and that really shaped my upbringing. So it's family is very, very important for me, very critical. And the food for feeding a big family is really not convenient food. It's really food that you have to make because you can get broke very quickly feeding 11 mouths. And the good thing is my parents were in the food business, so therefore food was always around. But we never really, I mean, I've never eaten a filet mignon or things like that. We ate simple, straightforward food, homemade, cooked, and really, you know, my business mantra to today is less is more. And that's how I grew up with not eating, you know, I never went to McDonald's. I we didn't had close by a McDonald's. We didn't had fast food. But I guess everything changed over times. But I grew up in a simple household, um, in a butcher shop. We had a farm as well, a dairy farm. So I know how it tastes to drink raw milk. Um,
Love that.
and we never thought raw milk is bad until I learned that you have to have it pasteurized. And I still think, not really.
Yeah.
But
We agree.
so, not to be um, politically correct or incorrect, but um, you know, my grandfather said, and my grandmother used to say something I would say today I almost cannot use it to say, but she said, once a week it's okay to eat your bread without washed hands. So, with other words, we're eating way too sterile food. And that's what she kind of wanted to bring across. And but not to go off topic, food has to be clean. That's when you make it. But you know, as kids, we were out in the field, we were out in everywhere, and we probably didn't have the cleanest hands, and I was barely sick.
Yeah.
Because your
So
body's just getting used to all those antibodies and germs, creating antibodies and to help protect you.
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And so yeah, so that's my background, my story. I love to be a farmer. And why is that? Because I really like to grow stuff. I like to experiment with growing, being on the field. It's to me is a daily experimentation. Whether you're a dairy farmer, whether you're a grain farmer or a vegetable farmer, it's an experiment. And yes, you learn out of the experiment, and you're building up your farming systems. And you know, one of the things that I studied actually regular farming, like I call it full speed farming, where you have fertilizer, chemical fertilizer, and so on. And I saw that that's really not going in the right direction, especially for a small dairy farm. So I wanted to really change it into organic. But in order to learn organic, I went back to school and I really studied the organic farming, organic movement in the early 90s was just about to start. And our town was a really unique town. We had a lot of dairy farmers and we had a lot of organic farmers. And I think they are so. If you're working in an organic farm, it is very important that you have, like it's almost like an ecosystem. You need to, eh, you alone cannot survive to make organic food. You need to have your neighbor should be participating, or at least he shouldn't come close with the fertilizer to your fields. So it's farming is not only like what you pull out of the ground, it's also how you communicate with your neighbors, how you get along with your neighbors. And that's exactly what I learned in a big family. You kind of need to get along with everyone around you, and that's when the food becomes actually better and good. So if you have a farm and next to you guys are uh, really like Monsanto farmers, so to speak, doesn't work. You have to have an ecosystem with your neighboring farm.
That makes sense. So it's about community as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've lost sight of that just a little bit here.
Yeah.
It is about community. And so it's, you know, then the question always becomes is why is Thomas in the US? What on earth is he doing that he left Switzerland? You know, I didn't leave Switzerland because I was fed up with Switzerland. I left Switzerland with the best memory I've ever had. It was great. It was perfect. But somehow the family, my family, we are entrepreneurs. And sometimes you're gonna have to branch out. And I'm the youngest, so I'm the most craziest, I guess, and I branched out. I left the family, and I I came here to basically study English because I was working back home. Um, farming, honestly, farming wasn't really making money. It was just a hobby, and it was a hobby for my father, and it was a good sized farm. We could probably make money with it, but boy, oh boy, was it tough. And working in the butcher shop was also I appreciated that. I liked it, but I'm not, you know, I I'm not a shoebox kind of guy. I need to be outside. And so I felt like, man, what I'm gonna do. So I came in the US and studied English, and I was kind of bored. I needed something a little bit more challenging. So I kind of sneaked myself into UC Berkeley, and the professor said, well, technically you're not allowed to be here, but but I give you a chance. So you just enroll yourself in UC Berkeley Extension, and then you can just sneak into my class because then we don't have a problem. It's UC. So it's fine. So,
Awesome.
yeah, so at UC Berkeley, he said, there's conditions that you can work with us. My class is all about entrepreneurship, and that means you need to write a business plan. And the business plan has to be really professionally done, and I will grade it, but only for you, and not grading it to put them on the computer for everyone. So
Right.
we went through that motion, and I wrote a business plan about food truck because I saw that food trucks, unfortunately, were always called road coaches. And I was wondering, why are they road coaches? So it happens to be that the law was actually making them road coaches. The law didn't allow those immigrants, mostly immigrants who run those food trucks, to basically flourish within the food truck system, within the food system. So basically, the truck could not park longer than 15 minutes. They had to roll. So therefore, the truck was not able to cook. Nobody can cook in 15 minutes. So what was it? And they had to basically think outside the box and say, okay, we're going to serve sandwiches on ice. And you probably have all seen those old food truck that just, it's not that they wanted to serve bad food. It's just the law allowed them only 15 minutes. So, I remind you, this is in 2002, 2001, when I studied that almost 25 years ago, when I studied the food truck systems in the US. And so it didn't, I thought, you know what, there is a way to get around with all this thing. I took a lot of time to study the laws and the regulations. And so going back to the professor, he liked where I went with this food truck. He was disrupting the food truck industry. He was different. And so he said, well, the business plan looks actually really good, and I hope you stay, and I hope you're going to open one. So that was the next challenge. So how do you fund a food truck out of basically not a lot of money? Well, I asked my family to help me invest in the food truck. I made a deal with a German manufacturer to build me a food truck, and we partnered on that. And I got a food truck here. But few weeks in it, the darn truck got stolen for
Oh, goodness.
joyride. Yeah. So no money, no that. All of a sudden, got stolen, and I had a friend at that time, and I said, "Hey, I'm out of business." He said, "Cannot be." Yep, I got no truck. I have nothing to do. So obviously, I didn't write this in a business plan, but so he said, yeah, well, we have to call the media. We need to involve the media. So he reached out to San Francisco Chronicle, and they picked up that story. Chicken truck got stolen. So the chicken truck got stolen overnight. My little tiny student apartment became like a media center. Like cameras came and everybody was excited about that food truck and so on, but I still didn't have a food truck. 24 hours passed. Later, the police officer from Richmond says, hey, we found your food truck somewhere in Richmond. So okay, well, so I went there, and San Francisco Chronicle, the second time on the front page, said food truck found. So that food
Yeah,
truck
right.
became that chicken truck became that Bay Area sensation. And
Yeah.
so
The good
I
thing is the press that
Yeah.
you got
yeah,
from it.
yeah. And so I went to pick up the truck, and the truck was absolutely destroyed. It was not able to drive. The engine was basically taken out, and but the grill, the cooking device, was still good. So we loaded it up on a flatbed on a towing truck and pulled it into the kitchen, washed it up, and I had an event that night scheduled. So in good old Swiss fashion, you never give up. You just go for it. So I told the towing truck company, you wait for an hour, I clean the truck, put new chickens in it, and you bring me down to Santana Row, and I pay you for wait, and I bring me back. And when we showed up in Santana Row, there was a long line of people waiting for that food truck. I'm like, this is insane. This is crazy. So anyway, fast forward, I built the business out of a tragedy.
Yeah.
And uh, I just kept on going. I built the business to 6 food trucks. And every so often I had to ask myself, is it really scalable? Can I grow this business? Where do I want to go with this business? A lot of consultants would say, yeah, go a restaurant, open a restaurant. So I'm not a restaurant guy. I'm not. I'm a farmer. I'm a butcher. And my food truck was, until today, I still have those 6 food trucks. They're going only to farmers market. So that 15-minute, I bypassed the 15 minutes by the regulation at the farmers market. Um, the regulation says you have to be there from start to finish. So, and the farmers markets are, in the old days, regulated under the ag commissioning. So because I bought all chickens from farmers locally, so I was becoming an ag business basically, and so therefore at the farmers market I was able to stay for 5 hours and didn't have to move the food truck every 15 minutes.
That's great.
So,
That's awesome.
so
And you know what I love about that too is not only did you build that on a tragedy, but also kind of what you spoke about earlier about your upbringing is also community that came out to support you when they were seeing in the newspapers all of that about what happened with your food truck. So that's really cool.
yeah, so that yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And so with that regulation in mind, I built the business on on farmers market, and I'm very, very loyal. I'm still at the farmers market. In the best days, I did about 40 farmers market a week, with just logistics and whatever. But again, is this a concept I wanted to put into a fast casual? Not really. And here is the reason why. So I cook those chickens at the farmers market, and I only have 4 items on my food truck. So 4 menu items. I don't do more. And I consider those chickens as you take it home. Yes, it's convenience, but you can do whatever you wish to do. You can shred it apart, make a salad. You can make a quesadilla. You can make anything, and it lasts you 4, 5, 6 meals. And it gives you also that bones. You can cook down those bones. You can make soup. So out of this one chicken, you can make a lot of meals. And that's my philosophy. Less is more. Use everything. Use leftovers. Use everything to make it really perfectly a meal for your family. And it's fun to shop at the farmer's market with your family. It gives you a lot of different creative ideas how to cook, how to eat seasonal, because you're forced to buy seasonal at a farmer's market. And when you look at throughout the year, I did a lot of studies on that. I don't spend a lot of money because I buy at a farmer's market. I spend the same as if I would go to a retail store, and but I have that farmer's connection. My produce lasts much longer. I cut out the middleman. I go straight to the source. So that's my business ideas and has always been. But now, of course, fast forward today, I'm a manufacturer. And why I'm a manufacturer is, again, I was not able to think the food truck as a scalability. So let's forget about the food truck. But with the food truck, there came additional businesses. Like I was catering a lot of time at Google, at Facebook, and they asked me, hey, can you cut us chicken the same as you do? Can you provide us really good chicken? I said, sure, I have a kitchen. I have a USDA kitchen. I built one for myself. And I started to cut them, like little fresh chicken breasts and what have you. But at the end of the week, I was sitting sometimes at 5, 10, 15,000 pounds of bones.
Yeah.
Had no idea where to go with those bones. And so, because my upbringing, we don't throw things away. We're butchers. We use nose to tails. And we know what we can use. We know what we can utilize. So I called my brother and said, hey, you got an old tank, an old cooking tank I can get? And so we found one, and we found actually 3. And I said, okay, take all 3. And I started to cook bone broth. But the major difference to me and anybody else is I needed to get rid of those bones. And so my formula was never, never skimpy. The more I can pack into the tank, the better it is, because then I don't need to worry about leftovers again. So I reminded myself how my mother made the bone broth, how my mother cooked the bones from what we had left over, and she sold it in the store. And we also ate every day a soup. That's part of our meal, whether it's at 30 degrees Celsius outside or minus 30 degrees, we ate the soup, no matter what. Part of our meal was a soup. And so I started to make that bone broth. In the beginning, I called it the stock. Had no idea that it's called bone broth. And I made that bone broth, and the first one I packed in an old in milk jugs that had a handle on it, like the gallon jug in plastic, but they were only 32 ounces, so like the juice jug that you can see. And I packed them in there, and I brought it to Berkeley Ball, and he says, well, I would like to try to sell it at the butcher counter. And I'm like, that's like the old days. So few days later, he calls me up and say, you got more of that stuff? And I was like, yeah, sure. How much more? Well, I wanted like about 200 bottles. I'm like, no. So I thought, hey, this is something different. So he wants that product. Maybe somebody else wants that product. So I started to think, what's next? How can I grow? And what's next was very critical, is that I learned to understand what customers want with my product and what is it good for. So I said, okay, it starts with the packaging. So I came up with the idea of a small, almost Italian milk bottle from the 50s. So I kind of copied that, made a little tweaks, and that's the bottle you see today. It's unique, it's different, but
I like it.
Me too.
thank you.
Yeah,
The
it's nice.
major point here is that I am very, very consistent in what I do, because I always remember that we had a little salt on our table to season ourselves. So I said, my bone broth cannot have any single salt. So how do I do that? Well, long cooking, very clean process, and really less ingredients. So just water, bones, and carrot. A lot of
Very
bones, of
simple.
course. Yes, and over time I also learned, or I knew that all day long, I have allergens to various allergens. And I said to myself, well, if I have allergens, most likely a lot of other people do have allergens. So I did most likely the hardest thing for a food manufacturer to do. I said to myself, I want to have a facility with 0 allergens. Out of the 9 allergens, I want to have nothing to do with those allergens.
I love it.
So today I can say my product is made in an allergen-free facility. And therefore, I'm very proud to be able to continue that journey, because it's intentional. It's intentional for me. It's intentional for other customers out there who are suffering certain things. And quite frankly, when people say, well, Thomas, you're so big. Yes, I became a little bit bigger than I was before, but my baseline or remain the same. Lots of bones, absolutely no allergens in my facility, and no salt ever in the base product. So I'm just, very intentional of what I do, with always the layer of never forget where you come from.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think everything you're saying is perfect. I love less is more, right? Don't waste anything, nose to tail. That's perfect. I think it's really interesting how you came up with and started the bone broth business, based off your previous business. I myself just recently found out I had a pretty severe celiac allergy. So my label reading and looking
Huh?
at ingredients and process and cooking when I'm out and about, um, looking at all of that has become paramount to me. And it is just a breath of fresh air to see companies like yours that are out there, no allergens, clean cooking surfaces, using the right materials and keeping everything safe. And you've got all 9 covered. So that's wonderful. Were you always aware of the health benefits of bone broth? It sounds like your family was, either from just knowing that there's extra nutrients that you might need, but did you always know the science of it?
You know, as kids, sometimes I was a rebellious kid. Why do we need to eat soup every day? And my mother said the same thing every day. Well, if you don't want to eat it, you will suffer later on. So it's
Yeah.
up to you. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's a
she's pointing
pretty
at me. That's what we tell our kids too,
Yeah.
right?
Like, oh, we can.
You're not gonna feel good immediately, but long term you're gonna be in a lot better shape.
so I think it's awesome, Margaret. go for it.
Yeah.
And so, I thought, I mean, yeah, okay, we just eat that soup, same as yesterday or maybe same as last week. But I, I think I was not aware, but
Mhm.
today I am fully aware. I
Yeah.
am extremely aware. I do eat soup, bone broth every day. I typically make myself a bone broth tea at night. So, like, I sip a cup of broth with, you know, chamomile. I put a little bit chamomile in it, and I kind of like it. I do add a
Oh,
little
yeah.
salt. Um, you know, I think salt is one of those things that is overused, but we do need it. And
Yeah.
I think, again, a very good salt comes a long way, and you don't need a lot, like a gray sea salt or any of those really good high quality salts are essential, crucial, and important, but driven by the individual, not the generalization of the food manufacturing beliefs. I want to add flavor because so that you don't recognize my product is not flavorful. Salt
Yeah.
is flavorful. So I don't I don't believe in telling stories to people that are not true. The story of a product has to be reality, has to be quality, has to be driven forward. And to your point, yes, I'm aware of bone broth. It does help me in a way that I have a much healthier gut nowadays. I am um, much more agile. Uh, I I'm just more aware of my surrounding. Is it the bone broth? Not necessarily. It's just cautious how I eat. I really don't like takeout food. I don't. I don't eat out that often. I eat less. There is nothing wrong with biting into an apple in the afternoon, or a fruit
Mhm.
just as a snack. Um, Sometimes also good to have a little bit of chocolate. That's perfectly fine as long as it's, like a dark chocolate, something like that. So indulge yourself, but just eat less. And just the you know, we just we all eat too much. We all eat too much crap. We all eat too much because we're all in hurry. We're all in this soak of he told me convenience food is good. Not necessarily. It's not necessarily always good.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, the good thing about bone broth is it's so nutrient dense. So you can get so many nutrients just from like one serving. So, do you think, would you be able to, for someone who's new to bone broth, would you be able to break down how it supports gut health and immunity from a holistic nutrient standpoint?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. So again, there are a lot of bone broths out there, and let's start with the three known factors of bone broth. So there is the aseptic packaged bone broth in the middle of the store, which is typically in a brick Tetra Pak, um, highly industrialized, a lot of sugar, a lot of salt, or sugar, depends on the brand. And then the second one is the frozen one. Frozen is good, it's okay. It's just when you look under the microscope, it never comes back together. And then there is the one that you make at home. That is the best bone broth there is. So I cut myself out because I'm like you. My bone broth is like a homemade bone broth. But I want everyone, every listener of you both, to know that they should make their own bone broth at home. It's the best you can make. It's very, very emotional. And it actually creates a smell in the house that your kids, my kids, will remember for the rest of their lives. It's that really good, deep, roasted smell that's almost, I don't like the word umami, but it's such a soothing, great flavor. So I make a bone broth that is highly in protein, high in collagen. I cook it for a long, long time. Now, bone broth, when it's broken down, has a lot of amino acids. Amino acids are extremely important for us. Amino acids are proteins. Usually we say the foremost, there's a lot of amino acids in the bone broth, but we're talking about the four most prevalent amino acids. So breaking them down will actually help your gut as a leaky gut or your lining, because collagen is our elastomer. We all produce collagen. So when you have a teenager or whatever, they falling off the bike on the road, they stand up and they just shake themselves and they're good to go. If you and I falling down on the bike, different story. Correct. We might hurt ourselves more with the same impact. Why is that? Because our body as a younger age reproduces a lot of more collagen that we are needing. So we are a collagen producing machine in the youth. However, when we get older, we're no longer. So how do we get away with that? Well, we either change our lifestyle and not going to be on that skateboard any longer, or we're going to get additional help with collagen. So there are synthetic collagens, which I won't talk about it because it exceeds my capacity of knowledge. But I can talk about the bones, the bone broth. So how do we get collagen into a bone broth? It's very simple. We talked earlier on. In the butcher shop, you have a lot of leftover. You have wingtips in the chicken. You got knuckles. Knuckles are a high source of collagen. Chicken skin, extremely a lot of collagen. And then we got the feet, the paws, collagen. So all those elements create collagen, create that gut health, create those amino acids that you need. And of course, drinking every day a cup of bone broth will not help you to run down the street with a skateboard. But at least as we get older, we are creating additional movements with collagen. So we are not as it's not as painful when we fall down.
Yeah.
We might break something, but still not. So that's the magic of collagen. And bone broth is one of the natural source that we have nowadays that will create that for us.
I always say that. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, please.
I always say, like, too, when people are talking about collagens, I'm like, real or like a collagen supplement. I'm like, really, bone broth is the best way to get collagen. It's the most natural and best way for that to happen over than a processed powder.
Yeah.
100%. And again, processed powder, collagen has one thing that we don't know is highly heat sensitive. So when we are packing bone broth in that brick, we're heating it over the boiling point. Collagen does not like the boiling point. Below. Has to be below.
Okay.
That
So
explains why it's not jelly.
Yeah, I was just thinking with all the, the growing research in gut health, right? And all the wellness influencers out there promoting it, people are much more interested. And there's tons of products now that you can find that are promoting, that bone broth and collagen is so good for you, which I think is great. But there's probably a lot to look out for too, in that regard. So that was going to be one of my questions: was what do you tell somebody who's living still in that convenient world, right? They want the fast food and fast results, so they're taking the collagen supplements. How would you explain to them the difference between those supplements and, bone broth as the delivery system for collagen? I suppose it would be that it's more of a whole food, but are there also toxins that are added in the supplements, or they're prevalent there that wouldn't be in a bone broth?
yeah, there's a lot of saying out there. Well,
Yeah.
bones do have heavy metals and stuff like that. Uh, it all depends.
Okay.
Look, I think in a real bone broth, if it's sourced organically, if it's sourced regeneratively farmed, or if it's organic and grass-fed, grass-finished, or free range, the likelihood to have heavy metals in bone broth, absolutely zero. We test every 2 months for heavy metal because
Yeah.
that's what we have to do. Or I personally wanted to know it. But for a person who believes in synthetic or powders, or like other things, I would say his product is probably better than nothing. So I would say continue with what you know, but do maybe a little research around collagen and wait for me, please, until I have full distribution around the United States.
Yeah. Perfect.
Hey, you were around our area. I actually saw your bone broth and sprouts.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
wonderful.
so
So, oh, for people who are new to bone broth, what are some simple ways to incorporate it into their everyday routine?
well, so maybe a few words of not so nice language, but bone broth around the world is your health elixir. In Italy, they call it Italian penicillin. The old nonna says, "Oh, it's Italian penicillin." My grandmother says, "My, it's Swiss medicine. It's the real medicine." A Jewish person says it's Jewish penicillin. A Filipino says it's Tinalo medicine. I think there's truth to be said about bone broth health, especially chicken. Especially chicken. Beef is okay, but it's tough. I I have to fix my beef broth. Um, I don't like to drink beef broth. It's too strong. It's too grassy. It's too grass fed. But if I add a little bit salt to it, or a little bit of jalapenos or whatever, it tastes good. And it
Yeah.
definitely beef has humongous health benefits. The
Yeah.
beef bone broth. And I think, look, for people who are new to the bone broth, I go back. Look, when I scale my bone broth, what would you rate your bone broth? I would say I'm probably a 9 in overall. But I'm still probably one of the best there because I really don't shortcut on the bone broth. But the one that gets 10 is the one you make yourself. Your biggest challenge, unfortunately, is where do you get those feet? Where do you get the skin?
Yep.
Where do you get the wingtips and all these things that make a really good bone broth? That is the distribution's challenge. We have forgotten that the buyers of any store, retail store, forgot you. He doesn't understand the intention of his customer. And
Yeah, well said.
I am here. I think if you cannot make your bone broth, I'm
You got
helping
us.
you. I got it. And when you look at bone broth, I think if you make it yourself, it's jiggly, it's full of collagen. Mine is the same. Mine has collagen, it's jiggly. And as I say, a good bone broth, you just look at it and it says, judge it by the jiggle. So it's like the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. That's how you have a jiggle rating on some of your
Co-
products, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I want. I want that jiggle rating. And because your bone broth at home jiggles. Look at that turkey soup. That once you take those turkey bones and you make that turkey, it jiggles
Mhm.
because you used everything. You used the knuckle bones, everything, the whole carcass. And so you can add a little bit chicken feet to it. It gets really, really collagen rich and jiggly. And I think what consumers should look for, they should, experiment whether bone broth is for them or not. And I think what you both are doing is exactly what we need to do. We need to talk consciously about our food intake. We need to fully be aware of allergens. We need to be aware of less is more. We need to be aware of not only food, but talk about food. Have I, for instance, in no matter how busy I am, I have one principle: dinner with family. No
Love
cell
it.
phone, no TV. I don't have a TV, but just no distraction. And 50% of our health comes through communication, comes through socializing. And what's better than socializing over great homemade food? Nothing. That's the
Nothing at
best.
all. No. Food is medicine.
So I do have a question about sourcing. So for listeners who are new to bone broth, could you explain like what makes the source of the bones so important? If they're grass fed, sustainable, humanely raised animals, those types of things.
Yeah. So, um, very, very good question. Um, we only source organic because I know a thing or two about organic farming.
Does that mean that the chickens or anything, cattle, anything, are they fed organic feed and then obviously grass fed? Okay.
Absolutely. So they are typically from smaller family farms. They're not humongous industrial farms out there. They're not the four big ones in the meat business.
Right.
Um, for the chicken, organic, um, absolutely no animal byproducts, so grain fed, and then access to outdoors is very important. Gives healthier bone, stronger bones, more robust bones. The chickens are also lived a longer life. Beef, the same thing. What you really want is grass fed, grass finish. That is important. So organic, grass fed, grass finish is critical. So I have relationships with the Sierra farming community from the California Sierra Nevada, the range,
Mhm.
where rangeland is from the Central Valley going up into the mountains. It's rangeland. Those cattle are grazing out there. And what's very important to me personally is also those animals are grass finished and not grain finish. So what they have eaten all their life will never change. It will be grass and grass. And that's critical.
I'm glad
And
that you
again,
mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that because I feel like a lot of people are like, yes, grass fed. But a lot of people don't realize grass finished is really important too.
very, very important. So it's it's an emotional subject, but the animals should have a really good life at the time they are around us. And they should be treated with respect. They should be treated with craftsmanship because I expect my farmer to be a craftsman because I believe I'm a craftsman. I am not your industrial manufacturer. I want really to be, I have huge integrity, product integrity. I have, and I'm not just saying that. I'd rather not fill a kettle with bones if I cannot stand behind my bones. So,
Right.
what is it? It's the relationship I build, the trust, the value we have, the integrity the product has, the integrity I have. My hands have integrity because I worked all my life with the hands, and I don't want to shortcut a product that just does not have any more this nutritional value that I promise and I wanted to deliver to all of us.
Agreed. I think it's really important too for even like harvesting and everything needs to be respectful because energy passes, it stays in that food. And if an animal is very stressed when they're harvested, that energy can transfer into you when you're eating their food, in my opinion at least.
You're
Um
100% right.
yeah,
I
and
personally also, because I have a relationship, I don't buy meat in grocery stores any
yeah,
longer. I'm
same here.
buying it. I'm buying it direct from the farmer. I prefer to have a ranch harvest as the stress in the animal and less stressful and more just, gosh, I really want to support my source, my food community. And yeah, maybe I'm a little selfish, but I think it's important that we are going back to eat less, talk more about food, have a good time on the dinner table, and really enjoy the moment of food, even when we are talking to the farmer.
Yeah.
Yes. I wanted to know if there's a difference with taste between grass-fed bones or if it was just conventional. Can you tell the differences with the taste?
Oh, you put me on the spot. um, I think I could. I am pretty confident that I could. How so? I think a good dense bone broth has a mouthfeel. It's full of, it just feels full. It has a mouthfeel, has a good bite. Just, it lingers. And the really good bone broth with high collagen is, it almost sticks your lip together. And when you touch it with your finger, it glues. I mean, they make glue out of collagen.
Mhm.
So you know that company, but it should glue you almost together.
Oh, wow.
That's the mouthfeel. That's what is that. Boy, oh boy, is it rich. Boy, oh boy, is it healthy. And that's when you can say, if it's a regular bone broth, and you heat it up and it immediately kind of feels colder in the back of your mouth, you know that's more water because collagen remains the heat. It doesn't like the boiling, but it consistently, so you have a much more density. Water is not as dense, so water can get colder quicker or it feels colder versus a bone broth lingers back and it's warm and it also comes down warm. That's a quality that I'm looking for when I taste bone broth. And quite
Oh,
frankly, every batch we do cupping. Like in the coffee industry, we sip.
okay. To test and make sure. Okay. I love that. Okay. So, yes, we do have a game,
All
and it's
right.
called it's called the 5-Second Flavor Challenge Butcher's Bone Broth Edition. And so we're going to name 5 real life food scenarios, and you have 5 seconds to answer how you would use butcher's bone broth in that moment.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is make a boring chicken breast exciting.
Oh, um, pan, pan sauce with bone broth. So, and then go back and add a little butter to it.
Okay.
Oof, that actually sounds really good.
Yeah, it does.
Great answer.
Good answer. A cozy movie night snack. What's the quickest way to sneak in some bone broth?
All right. Heat it up in a pan, put it in a cup, in a mug, your most favorite mug. Add a little bit of cinnamon or chamomile, and just make sure when you drink it, hold your hand around it.
I love it.
Make it cozy.
All right. It's 11 o'clock p.m. at night and you're starving. What do you make with bone broth?
Oh, good. Bone broth and a little bit of salt and a little bit of jalapeno, but not too much.
Nice. Sounds good. How about a post workout recovery meal?
I take beef broth. As beef broth has more density, has a higher protein, and I need to recover that one. Feels to me the best.
Good one. And serve someone who says they don't like bone broth. What's your dish?
Get out of the house.
I love it. Get out of here.
I love it. You know what's a good recipe is my 3-year-old daughter. She loves it's a hot cocoa made with bone broth. It's really good. You can't even tell.
You are the first who got to know it. I'm working around bone broths with flavor. And
Nice.
again, you have heard me saying, it's not too bad to eat a little bit of chocolate as long as it has no sugar and so on. Uh, your daughter and, and me were best friends.
She can be your taste tester.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's exactly what it is. Bone broth is a base. As a base for good food, for um, just for nourishing and for, sneaking some flavors in it that, we think hot chocolate just has to have water. No, 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 no. She's
Makes a
on the
difference.
way to become like something special. And we
Yes.
need that. We
And
absolutely need that.
a little bit of raw milk doesn't hurt either.
Mhm.
No, no. Oh my Lord.
Perfect glass of hot cocoa, right?
Yes.
Well, that's the idea. You want to learn or teach them how to incorporate little things like that here and there with just a normal food that they might be having, or even having with friends one night or something like that later in life.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Yeah.
perfect.
And speaking about milk, it's also very important that you're looking for a grass-fed, grass-finished milk. So that yellow butter, it's really, really good for you. It's really healthy. And melt a little bit of yellow butter and, you know, a good salt on it into a beef broth. It's extremely good, extremely good. And that's health pure.
Yeah. So as you experiment with different flavors or however with any recipe, are there any that you've come up with that are just no good?
Yeah, I tried a lot of recipes with, citrus based like lemon, verbena, and so on. And it's just they're good when they're hot, but when the tea gets a little bit colder, it just gets a little bit funky
Yeah.
mouthfeel. One of It's a classic in my world. I think one of the best pairing is turmeric and ginger. That is really, really a pleasant taste, a pleasant pairing. Um, you know, Also like Japanese seven spice, like shishimi, that really nice, beautiful that they put over rice in a Japanese restaurant. That one goes very, very well with bone broth. It just kicks in flavor that's very unique, very
That's a
unique,
great
and
idea.
It is.
very exotic in a way, and I like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So, where can everybody find you? On social media, your website, any stores that you're in around the country?
Yeah, so on social media, we are now going by the name butchers.co. So we are trying to be active there. And in fact, for the first time, we hired a marketing person. We
Oh,
never
All
had
right.
wow.
a marketing
Congrats.
person. We grew the business out of nothing because, again, I'm a butcher, I'm a farmer. We don't have investors. We invest everything I make, I invest back in the business. I grow it organically. And I am became the number one bone broth manufacturer in the fresh segment in the United States.
That's
So
so
I
awesome.
and and what that means is really, I think it's a testament to the quality to what we do. And it's a difficult thing to hire the people who believe in the vision and mission I have. But once they understand it, it's interesting. I had one guy who was not so healthy physically, and he had never heard of bone broth. He never drank bone broth. And today, I think he takes the most bone broth home.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine with me.
Good
So
for
where can
him.
you find us? You can find us in Sprouts, Whole Foods nationwide, in the East Coast, Publix. And now, for the first time, as of next week, we are in all 8 Costco's around
Wow, that's great.
the nation. And as you all know, Costco provides you value. It is a financial value.
Giant. So giant
It's
bottles?
Yeah.
no, no, two bottles, two
Oh,
All
bottles.
nice.
right.
And I don't know how they do it. No,
I love it. That's great.
I
That's very good to know too for people because a lot of people love their Costco.
I
correct.
do.
There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it. I
No,
I think they serve a very, very good purpose.
I do too. I love Costco.
And they're a good partner to us. They're a phenomenal partner, and it's beautiful. And everybody else is a good partner. Um, One of my favorite partner is AGB in Texas and Publix in Florida. They're just they're somewhat family owned, and they're just plugging along, and they really know their community, and that's what's important. It's a retailer who knows its community, and Costco knows the community they serve too. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank
Yes.
you both.
Thanks so much for listening. If you'd like to follow along with us, you can find us on Instagram at CrunchyPod and at Unapologetically Crunchy. We have the same handles on TikTok too. And check out our websites at crunchypod.com and unapologeticallycrunchy.com. And if you have some tips and tricks you'd like to share with us, feel free to DM us or contact us on the website. And one more thing, if you love our podcast, please consider sharing with every single person you know who would love it. And leave us a review. Oh, and you can tell them to leave a review too. We are so beyond grateful for your support. Thank you so much. Peace, love, and crunch.